To the death.
No! To the pain.
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase. So.
So I want to make this video for Christian men, all Christian men, but particularly young Christian men, of which I actually have a couple. Young men setting out, making their path in life. And I want to talk about courage. I want to talk about heart. I want to talk about despair, hope and the giving up thereof, standing fast, quitting ye like men. Therefore, I want to talk about to the pain. And if you don't understand, don't worry about it.
I'll explain, and I'll use small words so that you'll be sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
So there were a couple of Sundays this month where at church we had a sermon that was about men, right? Who are men? What did God make men to be? And then we had a sermon about, well, who are women and what did God make women to be? This was at King's Cross here in Moscow, Idaho. Pastor Toby Sumter. Great sermons. I've actually got a couple of poems that might be in the works off of those. I thought the sermon about women in particular was very beautiful. But the first thing I wanted to do, after having really absorbed all that stuff, is to talk to you guys about to the pain, which is a line from Princess Bride that came to me as I was thinking about this standing fast, holding fast, quitting yourself as a man, about courage, and courage being any virtue to the testing point, right? To the trying point. And it is so easy, honestly, for young men to be courageous, for men to be courageous. Like a lion. But we've all seen videos of male lions. I wouldn't want to face one, but I'll tell you, they do not look full of dignity out there in those videos. Often the hyenas, who hunt down their food themselves, contrary to myth, have more dignity. The lady lions have more dignity. The male lion, well, he's just a set of balls, and he's strong enough to take what he wants. He's a bully. That's the kind of courage that so many Christian men have. Dying is easy. We are made for that. The easiest way to die to self is to throw yourself in front of the enemy. Not that it's not admirable, but what I want to talk about is how we lose out on steadfastness. Our courage fails when we have to do it for more than 30 seconds. We meet a girl and we will die for her, and it's real. We will die for her. But after 1 year of marriage, we're assholes. What happened? There was a lack of endurance. There was a lack of steadfastness. There was a lack of courage, heart. To the pain, not to the death. And if we think about the culture-wide struggle, it's the same thing. We Christians find ourselves longing for the great climactic, decisive battle. And we're willing to go have the big fight. And so we have the wrong fights. We try to get legislation passed instead of going about doing things the right way, the steadfast way, the winning way. Might God bring about a decisive battle in the struggle for the culture, for this country? Yes. A decisive battle in your personal life? Yes. But the important thing is that you must keep slogging on, trudging on, toward the sounds of the guns, all the little guerrilla fights that are a pain in your rear. You have to have them, and you need to die again and again and again and again and again and again and again, which is painful to the pain, not to the death. You have not yet suffered to the point of shedding blood. Hebrews 12. So I want to read a bit of Hebrews 12 for you. You have not yet resisted, you've not yet suffered to the point of shedding your blood. Now, let's understand that shedding blood doesn't necessarily mean dying. We have not yet suffered to that point. We think we are showing courage. Are we? Are we showing true, manly fortitude, true courage, true self-sacrifice? Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And perhaps you've heard that last verse before, and you've thought to yourself, I am willing. I am willing to fight. I am willing to die. But have you been, and are you, willing to endure? To suffer shame, to not grow weary, to not grow faint-hearted, to endure, to endure, to endure. That word appears 3 times in that passage that I just read. Run the race with endurance. And the few verses right after the bit I read are about being disciplined by God, but a life of holiness. Therefore lift your drooping hands and strengthen your weak knees. That's later on in verse 12. The Christian life is a life that takes courage, and that courage is to the pain. Now, if we go back to the Princess Bride, what's happening in that scene? The good guy is paralyzed, but the bad guy doesn't know it. He's on this bed, and he's threatening, the good guy is threatening to cause such pain to the bad guy that he will be a byword in the streets, and women will shriek when he walks by, because he'll be missing a nose, missing his eyes, everything will be cut off. But he's going to leave his ears so they can hear the shrieks. Right? And it's all a bluff. He manages to muster up enough strength to stand and flourish his sword, and he tells the bad guy to drop his sword.
Drop your sword. Have a seat.
The bad guy then cravenly drops his sword, runs right to a chair, and submits to being tied down. All along, of course, the good guy was bluffing, and if he had just stood there and fought, he would have won. Unfortunately, we Christian men are very often like Prince Humperdinck, the bad guy. He storms into the room and he says, "To the death." And there is nothing to make us think he's not willing to fight to the death. What he's not willing to risk is to the pain. He's not willing to risk what's here in chapter 12, what Jesus himself endured, the shame of the cross. He was not willing to suffer indignity, but he was willing to die. So then ask yourself, are you willing to live your life? Are you willing to live your life for others among a great cloud of witnesses? Or are you just keeping your head down, hoping that one day a moment of glory will come to vindicate your apparent willingness? If you're willing to die, but you're not willing to live, you are no man. Let us all hear that. The peace of Christ be upon you.
Our educational system, and indeed our society as a whole, was destroyed in the 19th century by the German influence.
Really?
Ability as a concept turned into a mechanical, empirical construct. You may be a beneficiary of this system,